All right, so this is the 2015-16 PSAT scores, brand new SAT format as kind of they got a prelude for it with the PSAT this year. Not exactly knowing how all of the scores would kind of flesh out. It's going to be a learning process, not just for us, but also College Board going forward as we figure out how they're going to be testing differently. And if my guess is anything right, by the time we sort of figure out what that looks like, they'll decide to change the format of the test again. Seems about standard. All right. You have in your hands the score report as well as the actual test that they use to take the test. So on the day of, they take the test, and at the end of the test, they fold them up separately. We ship off all the answers, and we get to keep the booklets until the answer sheets come back. And their score report comes back so that we can put them together. And the goal of it from College Board is so that it's a study tool and a prep tool so that sophomores next year who take it for real, that is for qualifying for National Merit Scholarship status, they can have that to prep. But then also for those that are juniors taking it, they now have it available as they step into prepping for the SAT. That's not to say that sophomores can't be prepping for the SAT and taking it early as well. College Board says this: what is the PSAT? What does it actually measure? And of course, this is them telling us what they think it measures. So with that said, the PSAT measures the knowledge and skills that research shows are most essential for college and career readiness for success. So that's what they say, which is why we do it, which is why colleges accept it. Not the PSAT, colleges accept the SAT. There you go, record. What I'm actually going to do then today is we're going to go through the score report, learn what all the different numbers mean, how they can be used, what they don't mean as well, and then at the end get you an opportunity to connect into both the College Board website, the Khan Academy SAT Prep website, how to link your access number that's on the front of your score report so that your individual results can be then linked into Khan Academy so they can already essentially give you a more streamlined preparation for where your biggest needs are, while also building up the skills that you already have solid ground on. So your score report there, if you look at it, it's the sheet that's tucked inside that says hi, and then it says your student's name. So cordial, I know, so nice. So it says that on there, and as you can see, I have mine up here with this little thing covering up whoever's name that was. It's just a blank one. And the access code, so their individualized access code is that code number right there, which if they've already made a login to College Board, they can log into College Board, enter in that access code, and I'll show you how to do that at the end, so that they can then look at not only what you have in front of you, but there's actually more information that you can get online when you log in. The hard part for me is I log in administratively, so I can see everything broken down and all the different demographics. So honestly, I've never seen it from the student point of view. And maybe I'll bring in a kid sometime and have them log in just so I can see what it looks like in their dashboard as opposed to what my dashboard looks like. But if it's anything like mine, it's going to tell you far more information than you thought you needed to know, which is good, better than going online and finding that it's insufficient. So just on the inside cover then, on that first page on the top left is, they just get right into the numbers right away. So let me explain what those numbers are. Those are, so for example here, this is my 470 is my fictitious person here. Your evidence-based reading and writing score. My student, I scored a 470. What does that mean? I am I fictitiously made myself, I think, a junior. So that means my benchmark score is a 390. What does that mean? So the benchmark score, it is, again, according to College Board, who oversees and does the PSAT, that is the score with, if you score at or above that score, the benchmark score. So for me as a junior, it's 390. If I were a sophomore taking it, my benchmark score is a 360. They say that if you score 390 or higher as a junior, there is a 75% chance you will get a C or better in a freshman level English class. Let me say that again. They claim, based on their research and what they're showing in terms of how they test and what they score, that if you score a 390 as the benchmark or better, there's at least a 75% chance that you should get a C or better in a college level English class, freshman level English class. And then the same thing would go true for math. Math, my fictitious junior scored a 480, which was below the junior benchmark of 500, which is why right here, they like score in the yellow. This yellow zone is very, very narrow. The red zone would indicate, I didn't bring up an example of that, but the red zone would indicate that they need to have work on it. That's an area of weakness that they should spend some time on. For me, yellow means my score indicates that you are close to being on track for college readiness. But you need to continue to strengthen those skills. In a minute, we'll go through some of the other sub-scores down below, what they mean, so that you know specifically what areas need to be focused on and which ones are strengths. Over here then for this, it says you are on track for college readiness as a junior. And then these two numbers together give me my combined total of a 950. The difference this year for PSAT versus previous years is the new PSAT score is now directly applicable to an SAT score. It used to be a 2-digit number that really, I mean, it wasn't that hard. You had a 0 to the end, and then that becomes your projected SAT score. When we're doing this, though, realizing that the SAT itself goes up to a maximum of 800, the PSAT goes to a maximum of 760, just because of how they do the numeric values and calculations. So it's, again, it's an estimate, and there's a range, and in a second I'll show you what the range is for what the values are for each of those. So within this also, I have these percentile ranks. And this is compared to within grade level. So my fictitious junior is overall ranking 48th percentile. So again, meaning that of all college-bound juniors that are taking the PSAT, my individual junior scored at or better than 48% of all others that are taking this PSAT. All right, and the same thing will hold true for sophomores. If it's a sophomore, their percentile rank is then based on other sophomores taking the PSAT. So then you can see I'm kind of middle of the road here for all three. The overall score is nice. It's a quick snapshot, but the relative strengths and weaknesses, which are further down on that page, are what are really going to get to the nitty-gritty of what's going to be useful for moving forward for preparation. Our sub-scores and subcategories as well. And then we'll start talking about prioritizing areas of need. So here we go. Within the test scores, we have, so this is within the critical reading and writing category. There's 3 subcategories or test scores within that. The reading, the writing language, and then believe it or not, yes, the math portion of the reading. So it's critical reading within the in math components that go with that. And then within mathematics, we have sub-scores, and you can read all those if you want. You know, words in context, expressions of ideas, heart of algebra, passport to advanced algebra, very nice titles. If you want a further explanation of what each of those are, so for me, for example, I read heart of algebra, that makes sense. Passport to advanced math, it took me a little bit of looking to find out what exactly they mean by passport to advanced math. It's just extrapolation and critical thinking beyond algebra itself. So within this, we can see that my junior in the English, although they ranked as green, that is on track for progress, you can see that each of their sub-scores are in that yellow range, which indicates that there's definitely area for work. Let me zoom in down here at the bottom. So these are test scores, and if I get down here to test scores and cross-test scores, your score plus or minus 3 points. As I indicated earlier, the overall score at the top is just one number in that range. So in each total score, the total score, you know, I think I was 9. I'd have to go back and look here quick. I was a 950. So that would be plus or minus 40 points. A pretty broad range when you're considering an SAT score itself. So my projected SAT score would be somewhere between a 910 and a 990. So it's that 950 plus or minus 40 points. And then each of those subscores have their own plus or minuses as well. Plus or minus 3 points, just because, well, I'm not looking at, sorry for the zooming back and forth there. I'm not looking at really large values as they subset all of these parts and pieces out. So my reading is 23, 24, and 24. Pretty soon, and you can get a quick preview if you want. If you flip to the back page, you'll actually see all of the answers. We'll get to that momentarily. And then, again, we're going to be piecing it down and piecing it down and piecing it down until we're really identifying, oh, here's very specific areas where I consistently am missing the mark. And when those things happen, then we can really strategically hit how to improve and how to go forward, as opposed to just taking over and over SAT prep tests or PSAT tests online, but actually specifically highlighting those, and then potentially even beyond that. That's when you look at, going in and talking with a math teacher or a tutor or someone who says, oh yes, that's your area of weakness, let's work on these problems, let me give you some more strategies and skills to get you to that point. And the same thing goes for English writing and reading. So over here on the right, then I have my subscores in mathematics. So here it's easy to see. Command of evidence will be one area that is one of my weaknesses, and down here my passport to advanced mathematics will be the two areas of primary concern as we go forward with my junior. Any questions at this point? All right, for those of you that are listening online, there were no questions that had not already been covered. So let's go to the next page. National Merit Scholarship Corporation. One of the avenues that the PSAT uses is to assess where kids are, and this is for junior level. So if you have a sophomore who's taking this test, they probably have an asterisk next to their selection index, which indicates that they do not meet selection index criteria, which is a junior. They're not a junior. So sophomores cannot be eligible for National Merit qualification status. The selection index is pulling together of some different subscores. Different states, and every year the selection index is it fluctuates a little bit. If you're concerned or considering, hey, what it really is the threshold, usually you're looking at about a 208 and above to be considered National Merit semifinalist status, which is not easy. That's so finalists get you in about the top 50,000 of all juniors in the U.S., which is, I would have to look it up. It's like the top half of 1% or so. Are getting into that National Merit semifinalist and finalist standings. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. And in a couple slides here, I'll talk through some of the things to consider looking forward. So that's the selection index and what that means. There are some layers underneath National Merit. You can also be called a commended scholar and some other things along those lines. And those values also fluctuate up and down, but again, you're looking at being in the high 180s, 190s as potential for commended scholar. Those are things that definitely get broadcast out to colleges, and you will probably start getting, if you're in that range, start getting contact information if you allowed your information to be sent out to colleges. If not, the PSAT score itself is not something that you would ever submit as part of a college application. It's an indicator for you only at that point. Unless you reach those high levels. If you do, they will start contacting you. The school will get information if we have any commended scholars. They will send out really nice awards then that we can present to the students. It's a big deal when that happens. But the information under that, here's where it gives you just a quick flavor for what is available online. So again, online, if you use that front of your page, the selection, on the front of your access number in the College Board website when you log in as a student, tie that number in and you'll get more of this information. And so by this information, I mean specific suggestions for how to improve in your area. So my junior here, in there, we'll look at their writing. In writing, editing, and proofreading, eliminate unnecessary punctuation in challenging situations, such as between long subject and the predicate. So it's giving me specific instructions based on things I got wrong. So on the left side, it says your score indicates that you are already able to do this. So it says, hey, here's what you're doing well. Over here, these are things that you can improve your skills by focusing your ability to these specific areas. And again, this is just a quick, as you look at your own child's score report, these are just really a brief overview of some of the things that you'll find online when you go searching. Again, I haven't been on there as a student myself, so I have heard from some that they find it easy to navigate, and I've heard from others it's very challenging. So good luck on which of those sides you find it in terms of accessing. If you happen to come across tricks or tips that you think would be helpful for others, pass that on to me so I can share that with the rest of our juniors and seniors, and then also moving forward so that we can just be more effective in getting all this information out and navigating the College Board website. Now to the backside. Now we have answers. And yes, this is way too small on my screen for you to be able to read it because you have your own copy in your own hands. So in a moment we'll zoom in on some and look at specifically what they need. But there is an enormous amount of information here. Pretty much everything you've seen in these score reports this year is similar to what they've provided in years past. It's a little bit set up differently. So if you have had older students, older kids of your own who've already taken the PSAT, and you still have those records, you could probably pull them out and take a look at them, and you'll see a lot of similar items that are listed. But they just have kind of reframed some of these ideas, especially with more ability to access information online. But let's take a look specifically. Go to the far right-hand side of the answer sheet. We're in the math test portion. Very top, if you look down to number 6. So what I want you to do now is open up your test booklet to page 34. Because that's, as you're going through this, and by you, I don't mean you, moms and dads. I mean your children, who you're going to sit down with and show them what they should do and help them in that process. But you'll open up, because this was the math portion, you'll see across the top of the booklet, there's a little calculator with the X through it, which means this was the no calculator portion. So on that, there is question number 6. And some of you with your math background will read that and go, oh yes, I can see what the answer is. Well, the example I have here on the board shows that my person for number 6, you can see number 6, just to the right of that, it says the correct answer is C. So if you're doing this in your head right now and you guessed C, well, congratulations. But you don't get to take the PSAT again, but your kids might if they're sophomores. Your answer, so my fictitious junior here got that question wrong. They answered A, when the answer really is C. All right, this little difficulty thing, there's 3 little dots. 1 dot means, according to College Board, that would be an easy question. 2 dots would mean this would be a medium question, and 3 would mean it would be a challenging or a difficult question. PAM, and then several of and if you look across the rest of the answer sheet, some questions have a little 3-letter acronym after it, some don't. That's where you get to the idea of, when you go back to the English portion, some of them are related to math. And this one is PAM, which is that whole passport to advanced math. All right, so when you look at this, that's one of the other areas besides just algebra that this question is assessing, is that passport to advanced math. All right, so they call that's part of a sub-score. And then if there is a cross-test score, that's where you're going to have, up here if you look at number 3, number 3 was also in the area of sciences. All right, so if you flip back in the test booklet, you can actually look at what number 3 was asking and see how that also relates to a sub-test score of the sciences. So then, that's just one question. Where to start? One of the things you can start with quickly, and by quickly I mean relatively easily, is going back into the test booklet. And there's 2 ways to go about it. You could sit down and go through the test booklet again, circling answers in pencil, not looking at your answers from the first time you took it. Not you again, I'm talking specifically to your children. They can take it again, sitting down and going through those questions a little bit at a time. I'm not saying sit down and do 2.5 hours of testing like we did that day in October, but going through a little bit every day, 5 to 10 minutes or so every day. And then checking it with the answers. I say pencil just so we can always go back and correct. You have the answer key in front of you. You know what the hard ones and difficult ones are. They've seen it once, And one of the great things about the SAT, and this is why SAT prep activities are so beneficial, is just by knowing the format, becoming more familiar with the way questions are phrased, you can increase your score without necessarily increasing your content knowledge. Okay, now content knowledge itself does also help. But that just familiarity with the test is also a benefit, which is another reason why we have always done, well, since I've been here, my 2 years, PSAT for all sophomores, PSAT for all juniors. 1 year as a sophomore, because inevitably a sophomore will forget what's going on, show up on test day and go, oh yes, that's right, today's the test day. Does someone have a calculator I can borrow? Realizing that everybody else is taking it too. But it's not them stepping in, doing it the first time under the gun. They've at least had some exposure. What they do with that then is up to them. So this is where we start talking next steps, and I hope there will be some more questions, and I'll get you into some other things here quickly. But next steps. Student growth will be shaped by courses taken and individual efforts towards growth. This then comes down to the students and the family and the school together. Getting them into classes that are appropriate but are also challenging. And in large part, this other half of this sentence really is geared towards the kids to say, what are you going to put into it? If you put in the time and effort and energy in your classes that are challenging, that's going to be to your benefit. For the reading and writing, this has been something I've hyped on, really go at our middle schoolers quite a bit with it, high schools too, but reading extensively. And it doesn't have to be necessarily reading in any type of content area, but just reading extensively, becoming more fluent. By fluent, I mean not just quicker at your reading, but remembering what you're reading. And then developing writing skills, a very generic statement, developing writing skills. It's hard to develop writing skills if you don't write. So I still, although not for professional reasons, I spend a lot of time writing, reflecting. Some people call it journaling, but I get in that process of doing a lot of writing myself. It makes me better at grabbing my vocabulary. If possible, read some books that are beyond your vocabulary level and really challenge yourself. If you have to, do books on tape in addition to the book that's written. So you can hear the words and you see the words, because a book on tape, most of the time, will be operating at a fluency level higher than you can when you're trying to discern what the words are. But if you can discern the words in context as it reads and goes quicker, again, you're increasing your pace, and it's all about extensively and developing writing skills. Using peer editing and really being a valuable tool. And when your teacher writes those notes on your pieces of paper and gives you suggestions, actually taking them to heart and doing what they say, believe it or not. Deliberate practice. Deliberate practice in the 3 math areas that are emphasized most in this assessment. When I say deliberate practice, it's that focused sitting down and actually doing it. And then there's many, many practice tests. Khan Academy has practice tests. College Board has practice tests. You can purchase them if you want, but there's so much free that's out there for doing practice tests. When you're doing the deliberate practice of any of these areas, it's okay to do it chunk at a time, but it's not a bad thing to sit down and see if you can focus for 40 minutes and do math. A whole section, take the 5-minute break, do the next section, take a 5-minute break, do the next section, so that you're, again, it's all about training and preparing. So here's the College Board website. If you've not been there, students.collegeboard.org, .collegeboard.org. If your children have already set up a username and password, they can do that. They can do that at any point in time. They can sign up and get SAT practice problems of the day. And they can have those sent to their device if they have a phone, and they can have questions that pop into their phone. There are apps that you can get and download that are SAT. Now, back when there was a lot more of the analogies that went along with the SAT verbal, there were a lot of analogy things that you could do. They've moved away from analogies and now more into the reading and writing and critical reading. There's pros and cons to both. But get logged in, and then you'll see over here on the right, there's this link where you can go to Khan Academy for personalized practice and recommendations. That's what this website looks like, khanacademy.org. Official SAT practice. The actual website up here is not khanacademy.org, but if you just do a Google search for Khan Academy SAT, it'll bring you to this website. Official SAT practice. Right down here, There's this little thing option to practice now. There's my little cursor, practice now. When you click on that button, it takes you to this page where I can then also sign in to my College Board account, and that's where I can start to link using my access code, linking my individual test scores to Khan Academy, and then getting some practice. Now, I did create, when they first started talking about this last year, I went on to Khan Academy, created a student account, and started going through the math. And it is pretty neat in terms of what they can do, math and the English, I should say. I started with math because obviously that's my comfort zone. And then work through the problems, get some answers, you see what kind of feedback it gives, and when you get problems wrong, it'll link you to a video tutorial on how to solve that problem. They'll talk through in some cases what the more common mistakes are that you make, so that if maybe that's one of your mistakes, you know that, oh, that's what I did wrong. If you don't know what you're doing wrong, that's where you start to, again, paying attention to what you're doing, what you're getting wrong, writing those things down, and then you bring that back to your instructor or back to a tutor or whomever, parent or whomever it is that you're utilizing in preparation for the SAT. Same thing goes along for the reading. They walk you through the step-by-step process, keywords, triggers, things to look for in terms of types of questions that get asked, so you're not stuck with rereading an entire section just to find a quick answer. So they give you strategies as well for how to improve. All right. Take advantage of it. It is all free. This is fantastic in the approach they go. I don't know if it's going to stay free forever. So far, Khan Academy has managed to stay everything free. College Board, there's very little that they do for free. So this is a great opportunity. However, downside to free is, like, I don't want to make this an economics lesson, but things that are free people don't value, and if they don't value it, they don't take it seriously, and then they don't do it. So it becomes a personal initiative. It goes back to that slide that I talked to the kids in terms of, if you invest the time and energy into your coursework that you're doing, you're going to see greater success. If you just wait for it to come to you, it's not going to happen. So it's all that time, effort, and investment. My short story is the middle school parent who was talking about getting into club sport of some kind. And I thought, wow, at that age, I mean, that's just, some do it, some don't. It wasn't something I've done with my kids. But it was the comment that they made was, you know, if it's the energy and effort now that's going to result in a college scholarship, they're willing to do it. And as I was prepping to do this presentation, it really made me think how many of us spent the time and energy and effort, even a fraction of it, in some of those activities in prepping for an SAT. And I say that because I had a lot of parents come to me this year who have seniors who are saying, you know, 20 more points, and that was $10,000 more in scholarship. 20 points is attainable with far less energy than some of the other things that we invest time in. I'm not saying we don't do those other things, because they are valuable, and I'm sure there's not going to be many kids who are going to sit and say, yes, sign me up for more SAT practice. I love it. You're not going to really have an SAT practice team who gets together. You're probably not going to have uniforms and go to away games. That's just not quite the same kind of fun as doing athletics. So I get that aspect of it. But it really struck me with how much effort we spend late. And I say we because I was that same student who didn't really put any time into the studying of the exams until right before the exams. But taking time now, especially juniors and seniors, and I'll start talking to some of our freshmen and even 8th graders, not in terms of prepping for the test, but in prepping for being ready for when those opportunities come. Are we reading? Are we diligently and intently practicing in preparation for these things? So with that said, there is an opportunity to take an SAT prep class on campus. We did this last year for the first time with Kristen McKellar. She works, I think it's Ames. I should have looked it up before I typed it and now put it online, but I'm pretty sure it's Ames Testing. She's a consultant with them. They do SAT prep. She's done it up here in the North State for a while. Being that everything was new this year with the SAT, Ames Testing and their prep work and training their consultants has been delayed. So this is the first opportunity that we'll have to see the new material and have her come on site. So I just got confirmation this morning that these are the dates. There's a full-length diagnostic, which means essentially sitting down and taking the entire SAT on Saturday, February 27th, for those that want to take the class. And then the classes run Sunday afternoons here on campus, 2 to 4:15. It is open to those that are outside the school community, and we had several last year who came. But she runs a really good deal that if you're a student here, you get a $50 discount. Her other discount is if you sign up with a friend, you get a $50 discount. So if there are non-RCS kids who want to come that you know of and they have a friend that want to join, they can sign up together and get the $50 discount as well. It's not through the school, so contact and registration is through Mrs. McKellar, and there's her email and there's her phone number. One question came up wondering, so is this most appropriate for juniors? The answer is yes. You should be looking to take your SAT sometime in your junior year. Being that the SAT switched and waiting till the new one, it's just been back and forth as to whether or not you should have taken it or you wait till the new one. At this point, all juniors should be looking to take this May 7th. If not May 7th, the one right after that. Can sophomores take the class? Yes. The challenge will be if they haven't had some of the advanced math, it might be a little more challenging. And they might see things that they haven't seen before. But if they're okay doing that and not freaking out if they see something they haven't seen, it could be a benefit now even for getting ready for the PSAT next fall. Can a sophomore take the SAT now? Yes, anybody can take the SAT now. I guess at some point it just becomes a willingness to sit down and take it seriously. If a sophomore hasn't prepared much, I would recommend they not take it. If they've been putting in a lot of time and effort, then I say give it a try, and you might find that you do well, but it also gives you time. SAT can be taken multiple times. It's an expensive test, so I don't recommend just saying I'll take it a whole bunch of times. But colleges will eventually say just send us your best score. It doesn't have to be all from the same test. They'll get the best math, they'll get the best critical reading, and now the essay is no longer mandatory. So there is no, the essay portion is now optional. It used to be mandatory. Just indicate on here. So this YouTube link will take you to just a quick, I mean, you really got to pay attention and write down fast or hit pause many times as you're watching it. But they say 3 simple steps to get you connected to Khan Academy through the College Board. They say simple steps. The one parent I've had contact me so far said it's been far from simple. And they are not technologically illiterate. So actually went on the phone and were on phone support for a while until they could finally get connected. So hopefully this is getting better. Again, it's all brand new, so everybody's doing it all at the same time. The fact that we're so far away from New Jersey and we didn't get our results until just recently actually helps, because hopefully the websites have been hit hard and have already worked out all the bugs before we get on it. It's a nice part of being a long ways away. Any other questions?